I'm sure a lot of people do remember that back earlier in the year, in July, we saw absolutely horrific scenes on video. It's shown on social media, on television, where we saw a bunch of men who basically drove in a convoy for Palestine all the way from Bradford through various cities, shouting abuse to Jews, waving Palestinian flags, entirely entitled to do that second bit, and driving deliberately through Hendon and Golders Green and St John's Wood in London. This was last May, sorry, where they were shouting out, I can't read out exact things that they shouted out, all of them, F the Jews, F all of them, F their mothers, F their daughters. Now, the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, they actually did originally bring charges against 4 men, Mohammed Iftikhar Hanif and Jawed Hussein, and also Asif Ali and Adil Motta. Now, they dropped 2 sets of charges already, and then we learned at the end of last week they have now dropped all 4 charges against all 4 men, all from Blackburn. All had denied charges of using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour with intent likely to stir up racial hatred. The CPS says, though, there is no longer a realistic prospect of either defendant being convicted. Well, let's talk to Stephen Silverman. He's from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, and he's their Director of Investigations and Enforcement. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. One of the reasons this is so close to home to me is that this is basically at the end of my road that this happened, and everyone in the local area was talking about it. And the mothers and the daughters they were talking about are my friends and my daughter's friends. So I felt taking this very, very personally. Why on earth if there was enough evidence for these men to be charged, why on earth is there no longer a reasonable prospect of them being convicted, and why have the charges been dropped?
Well, look, this is what we are asking to be told about. You've beautifully set out exactly what happened and shown that it was captured graphically on video.
You can see the men's faces, for God's sake.
I'm sorry?
You can see the men's faces on the video.
Yes. You can see that this was a vicious, absolutely vicious assault on the Jewish communities in North London, and one that could only have resulted in inciting hatred against them. Now, the legal advice that we have received is that on the facts of the case, there appears to be sufficient grounds to put this to a jury for them to decide whether or not all 4 were implicated in a joint enterprise here. Now, the other thing that's worth adding is that inciting hatred is an offence that requires the consent of the Attorney General before the CPS can charge. Now, the CPS had gone through that process clearly intending to prosecute the matter. For them to have first dropped charges against 2 of the suspects back in July, and then only days before the trial was due to commence to have offered no evidence, is indicative of incompetence on a grand scale. Ineptitude is the kindest explanation that can be given here. And I'd also like to add this. After announcing its decision, the CPS sought to put out a further statement in which it sought to reassure the Jewish community that it wanted to rebuild trust and would prosecute all cases of crime against it where there is sufficient evidence. Now, these are just weasel words that seek to obfuscate the CPS's appalling record.
Is there any sort of appeal that people can make and say, look, this is unacceptable, these men need to be prosecuted, and again, stand trial, innocent until proven guilty? Was it these men? Was there a crime? Absolutely, I completely accept that process, but is there any way that this can be challenged?
We're working with our legal advisors and have been for the last few days to explore all avenues open to us, and that work will continue for the next few days. Clearly, if there is something that can be done, we want to make sure that it is done.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen Silverman from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, thank you very much. I'm going to ask you, first of all, about the World Cup and various controversies we've got over this. Everyone agrees, basically, Qatar shouldn't have been chosen as the venue for this World Cup, but it is what it is. We are where we are. Harry Kane today was pledging to defy FIFA and wear a One Love rainbow armband. Players are going to take the knee, but the armband could get him a yellow card, possibly more than just a fine, something that could affect the England team. Should he go ahead with that gesture or not?
I think that's a choice for him. I don't object to him doing that.
But he's representing the country. England. He's representing England. So it's one thing him getting a fine, isn't it? It's another thing if he actually causes damage to the team and our chances of progress in the World Cup.
Well, that's something that he will weigh up very carefully as the captain of the team, and a great captain too. I don't think he would want to do anything to harm the prospects of England, but players have a right to have their own opinions, and we as a country have the highest standards in terms of LGBT rights. It's a core part of the values of our country, and so I think it's perfectly at liberty for England players to make that point, whether on or off the pitch.
Okay. The whole point for me with the armbands are, I understand where they're coming from, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was all 11, and I don't mind all 11 going out to play wearing an armband, but just the captain. And they've been in discussions overnight about what you're going to do it. If Harry Kane wants to do it, let him do it. But if he gets booked, which he will do, still at the moment, and then he gets a second booking in the game, he gets sent off, we lose any chance we have at the World Cup.
Absolutely, and that's the thing where England fans go, you can have your little knee taking and wear your pretty armband or whatever. The argument is that it's, we're playing in Qatar, he needs to make a stand, and he talked about, inclusivity, and we had Gareth Southgate, the manager, talking about we need to show that, football is inclusive by taking the knee. You really don't. You really don't. I mean, you never needed to do that. Football's been inclusive for a long time. There's the kick-out racism campaign has been very successful. Yeah. Things aren't completely solved. But again, last year at the European Championship, oh my God, the fuss about those nasty, horrible, racist tweets. Yes, of course they were to some of the players who took those penalties. But I mean, most of them were from abroad. They were like less than 1% of all the tweets sent. I having watched it quite drunken on a foreign holiday. I like most people in Britain hadn't even registered the ethnicity of the players. They were just 4 England players who they're
all England.
But they're just England. I think that's what most people think. But this is it. There's been such a controversy since 2010 when Qatar got awarded the World Cup. I mean, large sums of money changed hands. We all know that. Everyone knows that. It's not a country that shares many of the values which FIFA professes to put forward. The whole thing is an absolute joke in that respect. Is it worth Harry Kane risking England's chances of going forward in this World Cup by doing this gesture when realistically, is him wearing a rainbow One Love armband going to make a blind bit of difference to anybody living under a regime like Qatar?
Well, no. It's absolutely not, sadly, and he's shown his support. England have shown their support. Everyone has to demonstrate with something extra, don't they? Just wear the England kit today, concentrate on playing the game, and concentrate on beating Iran, who, by the way, are lucky to be out there themselves. I mean, the way that they sort things out. But they're not going to be easy to beat. No. And I don't want Harry Kane worrying about getting booked in the first, second, third minute because he's got an armband, and then not going in for one if it's still 0-0 with 3 minutes to go.
Or another team basically trying to sort of force it somewhere where he could get a yellow card so that we lose him. And again, that is the crucial thing. Then you've got the nation's hopes pinned on you.
I want England to show power and positivity. I know Gareth Southgate, has talked eloquently about all of these things and as if he's got the world on his shoulders. Just get back now to playing 3 at the back with 2 decent fullbacks that will get forward and pace in the midfield so that we score goals. Because if we don't score goals, we ain't going anywhere in the World Cup. Doesn't matter how many armbands, how many knees you take and everything else. We're out there now. Those boys are doing a job. They've got to get on with it. They've got to do their best. But if they're still worrying in the tunnel about whether the captain's going to get yellow carded and then sent off after 10 minutes, because I watched yesterday a VAR decision when Qatar went a goal down, which was absolute rubbish.
Well, everyone was worried the Qatari officials running VAR. Can I just say, are we all just thinking yes to every single word of that? Elon Musk, big battles with his Twitter employees, an awful lot of people on Twitter, but also some controversy over who he's brought back to Twitter, including one Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's not just Donald Trump, though. He's brought back people like Jordan Peterson. I think he's brought back the Babylon Bee, who have been taken off Twitter for just simply misgendering people, which I think most people can agree is ridiculous.
Well, they haven't misgendered people. They've just stated biological fact.
Yeah,
I mean, let's call it what it is. Well, never give in to their language. because that's when you go down that line. You know, that's when you end up with her penis and stupid things like that. No, but that's the thing. People, I mean, you know, Kelly J, people like that who've, you know, done nothing wrong, and many other people just simply campaigning for women's safety and rights being taken off. Donald Trump, I mean, bear in mind, he lost his Twitter account when he was still president of the United States.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, like, the issue is that with Donald Trump going as president again running as president again in 2024, I think it's so important that the American electorate hear both sides of the story. And I think just having Sleepy Joe's side of the story, I don't think that's helping anybody. With Donald Trump, he might say some provocative things. I think that's part of the Trump character. But I think it's so important that the American people hear that.
Well, indeed, again, you've got a right to say it. And again, I don't think any of the tweets he wrote, even though I think he was behind what happened in the January 6th, a take on the Capitol, I don't think what he actually tweeted was actually in breach of that. And given how many horrific dictators who are murdering and torturing people, Iranian mullahs and things, are happily still on Twitter, I still find it extraordinary that they take off a democratically elected president, although I hold no candle, as my regular audience will know, for Donald Trump. Elon Musk is certainly facing quite a battle, isn't he, with his staff? He's got a deadline today for staff, I think, to basically, put up or shut up. It seems to me, though, he wants to get rid of a lot of his staff.
I think it's completely telling that Twitter seems to be running completely fine, despite most of his staff completely gone. I think that just shows the bureaucracy of Twitter and reasons why things like, Jordan Peterson was gone, because people had too much time on their hands to deal with this woke nonsense.
Yes. Yeah, that the truth there indeed. But I mean, again, I do. There was a bit of concern that with a surge in interest in tweeting during the World Cup, which of course football Twitter massively outplays politics Twitter, that actually they haven't got enough staff to manage the site and they could end up with outages. That, of course, will cost them money as well. But we shall see how that all plays out.